Hello and welcome to this Filbert Flies review of Pyreegue Devco's Edinburgh scenery for Microsoft Flight Simulator. You join me on approach to Edinburgh's Runway 6 and, as always, I'm starting with an approach to give you a look at the surrounding area and the opportunity to gauge the performance of this add-on on my system. You can find my system specs and current graphics settings in the video description down below. On the subject of performance, I'm experiencing quite a few stutters in MSFS at the moment. I don't know why, but it has nothing to do with this scenery. It's the same the world over, as you may have seen in my recent live streams. So maybe don't use this approach to gauge the performance too much after all, just enjoy the pretty views. I'll catch you after the landing, when we're parked up at a gate, from where we'll have a good look around the airport in different weather and lighting conditions, before I finish up by giving you my overall opinion on it. Before I stop talking though, I should mention that both ILSs are auto-tuning correctly at this airport. Speak to you soon.
$500. 400. 300. 100 above. 200. Minimum. 100. 50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 10. 5.
Welcome to Edinburgh. We're parked up on stand 1, and as always we're going to start by having a look at the jetway connecting to the aircraft. And I think you'll agree that has done a pretty perfect job. The hood hasn't gone through the skin of the aircraft at all, there's virtually no gap at all between the floor of the jetway and the aircraft, so absolutely nothing to complain about there. Let's move on to having a look at the modelling and texturing on the jetway itself. And this has been done to a very high standard. A good amount of detail on the jetway, and the textures look really nice as well, with a good amount of weathering and no blurriness at all until you get unbelievably close. Moving on to the terminal building and surrounding areas, and you'll notice that there's a good amount of detail down at ground level. Some really nice passenger walkways here, a good amount of ground clutter, and the terminal building itself looks very nice indeed. We've got a good brickwork texture down at the bottom here, which does get a little bit blurry as you get close, but certainly nothing you would notice from an aircraft cockpit perspective. The roofs have some nice detailing on them. The glasswork is pretty impressive. You'll notice that we have reflective windows and of course some interior modelling. And we're going to pop inside now and have a little look at that. So the amount of interior modelling at this airport is absolutely immense. Everywhere that you can park an aircraft, you will see interior detailing. And the quality is fantastic as well. Just look at these carpet textures. I'll just stop the drone so that you can appreciate how crisp they are. We've got a good amount of detail on these benches. We've got departure screens here, which are super crisp and easy to read. And you'll notice that the windows retain their tint from the inside, which is nice to see. This is the northern edge of the terminal, home to gate 6-14, and I'm showing you this just because it's a slightly different architectural style, but you'll notice that the quality is every bit as good as what we saw around the corner there. Again, very nice texturing, highly detailed models, and a fantastic interior. In fact, this is where the interior really shines, so let's pop back in and have a look. Have a look at the quality and level of detail on these shops. Got actual t-shirts hanging up. We've got shelves. We've got very convincing flat images of all the products on the shelves. It just does feel like you're at a real airport. And once again, we have some fantastic detailing on the roofs. This is something that you really don't see every day, and no blurriness at all on the roof textures either. Pyreegue have done a fantastic job with the control tower here. Now this can't be an easy shape to model, but there are no jagged edges whatsoever, and the textures are very high resolution as well. Perhaps most impressive is the modelled interior of the operating floor here, which is among the most detailed I've seen. And once again, we have glass which retains its tint from the inside. So you could, if you chose to, spend many a happy hour up here watching traffic come and go. This is the north apron and the cargo centre. Now, there's a huge amount of ground clutter here, which really does make it feel like a busy, bustling place. And the quality of these peripheral buildings is absolutely exceptional. These aren't buildings that you're going to get particularly close to in an aircraft, but nonetheless, Pyreegue have really put their heart and soul into recreating them as realistically as possible. Just take a look at the detailing on this Royal Mail building over here. Once again, fantastic high-resolution textures, a nice bit of weathering, and some super crisp signage. This is the general aviation apron. Not a huge amount to see here really, except once again for a really nice amount of ground clutter. And we have a static CJ4 parked up here, which is nice. Talking of static aircraft, we do have a number of static airliners parked around the place as well. Not so many that you'll have trouble finding somewhere to park, and most of them don't take up the important gates with jetways. So I think he's struck a happy balance here between having no static and having so many that you're going to struggle on VATSIM. One thing I really like, aside from the high quality models, is the fact that we have stuff going on around these statics. So as you can see here, we've got some luggage carts and some staff working on loading the aircraft. Probably would be nice to have seen the baggage doors open, but you know, you can't have everything. Adjacent to stand 14, the developers even modelled an animated Archimedes screw. Now, if this doesn't show that this airport was a labour of love, I don't know what does. Absolutely amazing. The ground textures at Edinburgh are honestly among the best I've seen. There is a tiny little bit of blurriness if you get down low enough, but from an aircraft cockpit perspective they look very sharp. My favourite thing about these ground textures is the way the developer has handled dirt. All of the stands are properly grubby, not just the odd spill and patch of oil here and there, but actual grime and dirt that you would expect to see at a busy airport. And no two of them are the same either, there's no repetition. So that is really nice to see. The materials used and their colours match the real airport incredibly closely, even down to details like this join between the slabs here. If you look at the Google satellite imagery, you'll see that they don't line up here, and they don't in the scenery, so that's really, really impressive. The taxiways look great. We've got a good amount of rubber marking around the centre lines. Now, I do have one very, very, very small thing to complain about, and I'm loath to mention it because it's such a fantastic airport, but I guess it's kind of my job. And that is, you have got the odd little bit of satellite artifact bleeding through, like this line along here. The grassy areas all look absolutely fantastic, as do the 3D taxiway signs. And the runway is truly superb. The markings are accurate as you would expect. There's a good amount of rubber marking around the centre line, particularly around the touchdown zones. And we've even got little details like cracks in some of the paving slabs on the outside of it. The ground markings look very nice as well. We don't have bright reds and yellows that pop out. We've got these colours nicely toned down and blended in with the scenery. You will notice one or two jagged edges here and there, but nothing to write home about, and all of the markings appear to be 100% accurate. Pyreegue have done a fantastic job with the landside areas as well. Have a look at the quality of this multi-storey car park and look at the sheer volume of cars parked both here and on the surface car parks around it. We've also got fantastic ground textures, no reliance at all on the blurry satellite imagery. It all looks very, very nice indeed. And the landside terminal entrance looks very nice as well. No transparent glass out here, but some pretty convincing opaque window textures. And the modelling extends quite a long way out from the airport itself. We've got 3 hotels modelled, including this Hampton, and all 3 of them make use of parallax effect in the window, which looks pretty convincing actually. Again, the quality of the modelling and texturing is absolutely first class, and I really, really like this little Spitfire that's down here. This is attention to detail that you very, very rarely see in a flight sim add-on. Here's Edinburgh Airport by night, and I have to say that every single inch of it is absolutely perfect. From the beautifully lit control tower, to the realistic apron flood lighting, to the lighting in the landside areas, and the lighting from the terminal interior. It just feels like you're there. Oh yes, and the runway and taxiway lighting is spot on as well. Here's Edinburgh in the rain, and the ground textures look really, really good when they are wet. They reflect the aircraft and everything else very realistically indeed. Unfortunately, Edinburgh does suffer the same level of popping as all airports do that use transparent glass, so the windows aren't shrouded in mist as they should be, and hopefully this is something that Asobo will fix at some point down the line. The implementation of snow at Edinburgh, I would say, is above average. We've got some really nice effects around the gate areas, where some of the gates are freer of snow than others, and all have less snow on them than the surrounding taxiways and apron. You'll notice that some of the ground markings have a covering of snow on them, which looks pretty realistic. We do unfortunately have a common issue, which is that certain areas are free of snow which shouldn't be, and we also have some pretty harsh transitions between snow-covered areas and those that don't have snow on them, as you can see over here, where this taxiway joins up with the apron. However, the runway is free of snow, which is always nice. It's always disappointing to arrive at an airport during heavy snow and not be able to see the runway other than for the lights. So yes, as I say, not perfect, but above average, and probably about as good as you can do within the limitations of Microsoft Flight Simulator if you want to have accurately coloured ground textures. So what do I think overall? Pyreegue Devco's Edinburgh is a work of art. It's right up there with the very best sceneries I've ever reviewed. You know when I start complaining about the cargo doors not being open on a static airliner that there really isn't much to dislike at all. One thing that I think could be done to improve it that didn't occur to me earlier on is the addition of passengers. This is something that I'm personally not that bothered about for some reason, but it crops up quite often in the YouTube comments, and looking at the beautiful terminal interiors, I do think a few passengers in there would be the icing on the cake. But Pyreegue have done an absolutely incredible job here. The quality of the modelling and texturing is fantastic. The terminal interiors, ground textures and night lighting are among the best I've ever seen. The level of detail across the airport, from the ground clutter to the peripheral buildings to the animated Archimedes screw, is insane, and the scenery has that certain rare je ne sais quoi which makes you feel like you're really there. Now stop wasting time on YouTube and go and buy it. Oh, but before you go, do make sure you like and subscribe, share the video with all of your friends and extended family. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon here on Phil But Flies. Bye bye.